part 3, I have a very, very special guest, a friend of mine for perhaps 15 years now, I would say. My successor at the U.S. Veteran Business Alliance Los Angeles chapter as a chapter president, and a longtime friend, John Plummer. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Bill.
So, John, tell us your contact, your website, how we can get a hold of you, all that stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. So, Servexo, you can get a hold of us by going to www.servexousa.com. Also, follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, same handle, Servexo. You also could contact us at 323-527-9994. Ask for extension 101. That leads directly to me. So, a little bit more about that, you can always visit our website. So, thank you, Bill.
That's so good. What would you say you learned from bringing your certification into an environment like that, whether it was the chapter itself or the ancillary connections that came about as a result?
Oh, thank you for that question, Bill. So I would say when it comes to certifications, right, they are essential. However, it's not going to get you the business. That's the icing on the cake. So I always like to lead with what we can do, who we are, what problem that we're providing, whatever problem that is, what solution that we're providing. And then my last portion, then I mentioned certifications, because if it's an agency who's looking for, let's say, veteran-owned or woman-owned, disabled enterprises, that allows them to meet those goals. But I would say certification, it helps to, when it comes to procurement process, right? It reduces competition. So I would definitely say that's something that you could look at directly as you're responding to RFPs. But the main quintessential is, can you do the work? How can you do it well? Is your price is great? Are you providing the best value?
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a golden nugget right there, just waiting to jump out at you. So, John made 3 points, actually. One is to take a look at our formula, 3CP squared, capability, capacity, credibility, and past performance. So that's one. Number 2 is the fact that the certification will not get you the job. It is a door opener, and that's a huge golden nugget, because so many people think they go through the certification, now I can get a contract. And number 3 is that you always lead with your capabilities. So let's talk a little bit about that, John. You and I know that being a part of that chapter was of a tremendous benefit to you. And because of who we were as an organization, we attracted some very high quality large businesses and government agencies. You were the recipient of one of those agencies, or pardon me, large primes that continue to come. Would you talk a little bit about that? I don't know how much I can say, so I was very generic. Would you talk a little bit about how that relationship kind of came to be and what it really led to in the end?
No, great segue. So that talks about patience, right? There's patience. Well, preparation means opportunity. I'm not sure what the formula we'll call it, but
it's called success.
It's called success, right, in short words. But you really have to have the patience, and you really have to put in the work. And what I learned as I grew as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, is that you have to do the work. It's not going to come overnight. You have to be consistent. You have to build a brand. You have to build your reputation, and you have to be willing to add value to others before you even ask. Because at the beginning, it's, hey, how can I do this? How can I work? And you're desperate, right? You're passionate. You want to do all these things that will make you in the business, right? Because you don't do business for free unless you're nonprofit. You want to be successful. You got to put, food on the table, keep the lights on. So you lead with that passion, but as you lead with it, you have to know, okay, what are you doing that's going to give value to somebody else? That's going to allow them to do business with you. So you have to really be intentional as far as what problem that you're solving for others. And as you add more value, before you even have to ask, it eventually come back around to you. You're known as a value person. So with that, this particular prime, we saw this company, and it was a big construction firm, and we did a lot of work in Los Angeles. And it was just constant engagement, right? It was building, number one, familiarity. It was consistency, talking about other items and just knowing what's going on. But it took a while, right? Supporting that agency when it comes to their industry days, being involved, before you have to act, just having organic engagement. And so by the time that comfortability, that familiarity was built, then the acts came. But I didn't have to ask. That individual a lot gave me introductions. And then from there I took the rest of the way. And from there we were able to get our first major contract with a construction provider. And that contract alone allow us to grow as a company exponentially because it was a project built. And if you know anything about project builds, especially federal ones, they take years and years to go around. So guess what? That was constant revenue that Servexo was able to live and grow off of to allow us to be in different avenues. So it just shows you being in the right place, right time, and doing the right things consistently will open doors for you.
Wow. I'm just full of golden nuggets. One of the things that I think is a great summary to what John just said is the fact that, have you noticed all of our guests are filled with integrity and they're filled with passion? And those are two ingredients that I don't believe you can ever fabricate. You can't make them up. You either have the passion for what you do and you have the integrity that goes along with it, or you don't.
Right.
And you can't fake it. And everybody knows it. That's the thing about it. That's why people want to do business with John. Because as we said with our previous guests, it's all about knowing, liking, and trusting.
Right.
Right? And so I think that is such a beautiful segue for the next question.
Before we go to the next question,
yes,
I wanted to highlight what you said regarding integrity. And so it's such an important key piece today, especially in today's world, because business could be cutthroat, right? And not all business is done with integrity, unfortunately. And so I think a person or organization should always lead with that intent. And even if you have integrity, I challenge myself to have better integrity. I have integrity. But how can I be better at having integrity? Because that goes beyond just doing the right thing. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And so I think that's so important to lead, because when you have integrity, it permeates, it flows down. And that adds to who you are, what you do, it adds to the character, it adds to the reputation. It's all about brand building, right? We want to be able to grow our brands to do things better.
That's really good. If you notice in the formula that I quoted, the 3CP squared, credibility is made up of integrity.
Absolutely.
Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That is such a beautiful segue and a really good lead into where we want to go with our next question. So one of the things that I've known about John for many, many, many years is John does what he says he's going to do. So John had a couple of really difficult situations that you had to work through. How would you advise our audience in working through those difficult situations, no matter what they are?
Right.
What are some of the principles that you got to stand on in order to come out of it the other side?
Yeah, it's a good question, because a lot of times no one likes to talk about the bad things, the not so good things that happen in business. Everyone wants to talk about success. We're doing great, doing well. Whether if you're a small company or if you're a $1 trillion company, all businesses have problems. But it's about how do you figure out the solution, right? And so with that, I think number one, the key thing is ownership. Owning up to, okay, this is the problem that we're having, acknowledging it, right? And then from there you go to how do I address it, or how do I make sure it doesn't happen again? So if it's if you have an employee who's not going at the part and it's hurting your past performance, or if it's other things as it relates to providing the service or not delivering, right? It's having that ownership, and then from there acknowledging it, having a plan, and having a lessons learned, right? So that way you model from it. Sometimes things don't go as planned in life in general, right?
Yes.
But it's how you respond to it that defines you. And I think it's important that you respond to anything with grace and integrity, because at the end of the day, the world is big but it's small. And you don't know if you have to face that individual with those circumstances down the road. So it's always good to lead them with integrity and with honor, whether if it's your fault of your own or someone else's. because you got to look at it from a perspective that we all make mistakes as human beings, but how do we evolve to get better? That's what defines us.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm going through, one of my companies is going through a very difficult time right now. And that really speaks to me.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the honesty that bore that out. Now let's talk about a couple other things very quickly. We're both veteran advocates. We've been veteran advocates for years. We've worked on committees together. We've stood up new committees. We've testified before the state legislature and Congress, and we're advocates for veterans. What would you say is the number one? Let's start with obstacles. What's the number one obstacle facing a veteran-owned business from entering into the work that we do, federal government contracting?
I would say the number one is 1 and 1A. 1 is awareness. 1A is awareness. 1B is the know-how. Because how do you know how to do business with an entity that you haven't done business with before? It's one thing to work for an organization as an employee or as an ambassador, but it's another to know how to do business with them as a business entity. So I would say that's probably the 1A and 1B number one obstacle.
Great distinction. Great distinction. I love that. 1A and 1B. Remember that. On the flip side of that now, what would you say is the greatest advantage of carrying the DVBE SDVOSB moniker besides Servexo?
I would say it's the acknowledgement and understanding from a buyer's perspective, from a potential employee, team member who wants to have a career perspective, and anyone that you do business with, that they know what type of company, that they have that distinction. So as veterans, we have a reputation, right? We've served our country. We are serving our country. Some of us still are actively. And so you come with a badge of honor and pride and dignity as an American and as serving America in that capacity. And so that should permeate over to the business, whether it's from structure, whether it's how things are done, whether it's the mission, culture, all those things come in hand because, like you mentioned at the top of the interview, is that you do business with people who you like, trust, and know. And so knowing what a federal veteran, someone says, thank you for your service, it's absolutely. And that flows in even to business. Thank you for your service. And now that you're in this service capacity, thank you for that continuation and opportunity.
Oh, that's well said. Very good. And one of the things I want to highlight here is the importance of the certification again. And a reminder, as John said, that he always leads with his capability, going back to a previous question, answer to a previous question. But most importantly, from our perspective, it's a door opener. It gets us into places that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to get into.
Right.
And if you understand that and you're prepared for that, then you can be ready. John gave you the formula for success. Preparation meets opportunity. Your small business certification, whether it's a WOSB, as our previous guest had, or a service disabled vet, as John has, those are door openers. Now it's his preparation that moves him into that next category. I think for our final question, let's take this on now. If we could write a perfect ending to your story, what would that look like?
In business?
Yes.
I would say the perfect ending would be that Servexo grows and eventually A, goes public, or B, does a roll up in a buyout and someone else is able to take over that our organization and pass the baton and take it to a different height. I would say that would probably be the ending what I would like to see for our organization. I want to be able to continue to grow from what we once started and put it in the hands of another veteran or some more veteran employees to be able to continue on the mission that we created and started.
That's a great dream too. Like our previous guest talked about her dream, and now John's talking about his. And one of the things I want everybody to hear loud and clear is that both of these last two guests focused on building a strong organization to serve this country. So if you'll notice with the service disabled vet, particularly speaking, both of them had service to the country as a continuing theme for their business,
Right.
and how the benefit of their business success builds a stronger country and a stronger place for people to come to work. Well, I want to thank you, John, for joining us again.
Pleasure, Bill.
It's awesome to reunite with old friends, two of them in one day. It's really special for me. And thank you for coming on the podcast, and we look forward to seeing you again.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Signing off.
Take care.